Hello and welcome to Absolutely Not. My name is Kay Maltel Thomas Stroll. My pronouns are they, them, and you can learn more about me at my website, www.kstroll.com. Real quick, if you appreciate the work that I do here or elsewhere, please visit my Ko-Fi page where you can join my warm and boundary community, leave a tip, or buy one of my workbooks on boundaries and psychological safety. Support my work so I can continue to do this work. The keywords for this episode are representation, respectability politics, and occupational identity. Yes. I encourage y'all to look up the definitions of these words and compare them to the definitions you carry with you on a daily basis. If you need help comparing, please let me know. This episode is sponsored by Headspace. Headspace has one mission: to improve the health and happiness of the world through meditation, sleep, stress, and mindfulness. Find out more at the link in the show notes. Today's episode is Agitating the Narrative with Christine E. Woods, she, her, hers. Christine is a native of Norfolk, Virginia. She is a wife, a mother, and an educator. She's a graduate of James Madison University, where she earned a Master of Education in College Student Personal Administration and a Bachelor of Science in Communications Science and Disorders with a minor in exceptional education. As the co-founder of Annie Gayle Foundation, her passion is to be a lighthouse for individuals on their personal and professional journeys. And I know it's not in here, but she is also a TEDx speaker. So write that down. She is a Black woman. Christine, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much. I love that. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me so much. I greatly appreciate you for this opportunity.
When we first talked, first of all, you belong here. I'm really excited to have you as guest because when we first talked about you coming on, you shared a lot of your own experiences and the narrative, everything that goes on in academics, in academia.
Yeah.
And I'd love to talk about what narrative we're agitating today.
Whew, which one you want to start with? No, I'm joking. I think the biggest one, and I always reflect back to when I first got in to higher education, was noticing the difference of how I was perceived as a Black woman walking into academia. I know that a lot of people of color just in general go through different walks. But there were a lot of things that I noticed that made me realize that Black people as a whole are not a monolith, and how people react to each one of us is also different as well based off of that. And so coming into academia, realizing if your personality is different, if your background is different, if you fit into certain molds or certain mindsets, it can put you into certain spaces. Doesn't mean that your view will be taken or respected, but it'll get you into the door and into the room. And seeing how your other counterparts who look just like you, who may have different backgrounds and different personalities, may not enter into those rooms. It was very, very different. And so I think for me, I present very bubbly. I present very like, I'm okay with this. How can I help? And I've seen how that's gotten me into certain doors, but when I get into the door, how the narrative switches for the reason of me being in the room. Whether that's just me being a body, whether that's just me being a face, to say we hit quotas, like here's the one. It's very intriguing. And so for me, when I do get in certain spaces, I take up space. One thing that always kind of comes back to me is there was an episode, Claire Huxtable on the Cosby Show, she was on a panel and she's thinking, I'm on this panel because I deserve to be here. And, I'm giving my opinions. And she's talking and the narrator is kind of going, what is she doing? Like kind of looking. And during a break, he kind of stops her and goes, hey, that's not why we asked you to be here. We just kind of need you to be almost like agreeing. We need you to go more to this side. And so she goes back up and she stops speaking. Like, she's like, oh, absolutely not. Like, it's just not a thing. And so when they go to her and they ask like, hey, so what do you think about this? Because they're looking for her to agree on a certain topic. She's like, nope, I'm okay. She says something, I can't remember what exactly she says, but it's something like very snarky to basically go, if I can't say what I'm thinking or why I felt like I was going to be here, I'm not going to talk at all. I'm not giving you my energy. And that's me. I'm going to get in that room and I'm going to speak my mind. And so for me, I like to kind of disrupt certain systems that I see are in play if I can make it into the room. And so that's been the biggest thing for me, is really breaking down that like boundary.
I thank you so much for talking about the unspoken expectations that come, which cause Black people to just be like, what the fuck are we doing? Like, did you hire me to do this or something else? Because if you had told me that, I would not have taken this job. Or if you had told me that, I would have been like, oh, I can't do X, Y, Z. Maybe I can do A for a little bit, but I'll probably quit this job in like 6 months.
Right.
I cannot be what you want me to be. And I love that you also mentioned your bubbly personality being a gateway into spaces. That like really gave me a flashback, because I think about all of the like executive white leaders I've had. They always said like, your smile lights up a room, like your smile lights up a room. And then when I get in that motherfucking room, people are like, you what happened to the smile? Like what it And it's so confusing, but those are expectations that they have. When was the last time you asked someone to speak about those unspoken expectations because you felt the expectations shift?
Ooh, that's a great one. I fortunately haven't had that happen recently. It was oh my goodness. And it says a lot because I have been intentional on not putting myself back into those spaces. And that's why it's hard for me to think back to it. But it was probably about, I'm gonna give it 4 or 5 years ago. I was already in this space, but they wanted me to do a different project, which put me into a room with different people. And I got there and I'm talking and one thing I cannot stand is getting into a room and I'm speaking and you can tell everybody's tuning you out and you're like, I know not. I know this is not happening. Because then I'm going to say something to trigger somebody on purpose. It's a bad habit that that I've learned to hone back in on, but I would always say something to kind of add a shock factor to say, I can tell you're not listening. And so I went to my supervisor who was a Black man and I went, question, why exactly was I put on this? Because one, it didn't make sense from the get-go. I'm thinking like maybe, they're challenging me. And they were like, to be completely honest, it was a lot of white faces and you were one of the people who they liked and they figured bring her on. And I used to get that a lot of, oh, well, if I have to choose one of the Black people, which one could I work with? And going back to my personality, I come off as seemingly that, oh, she gets along with everybody. She can, we put her in there and she'll just, kind of concur. She'll be a good face. And I'm like, you don't know me. I present that way because that's who I am naturally. I am joyful, but I'm also intelligent. That's how I got here. And I'm going to use my voice. Like, you think that this smile doesn't come with a loud voice behind it? So yeah, it's been a couple years and I'm so happy to say that I'm in like a better space. But yeah, I tell my husband all the time, I said, I absolutely refuse to ever go back to that mindset of being someplace where I can tell I'm not valued. So yeah.
I love that for you. I love that for people who are listening to this, that it's possible, because a lot of people in those organizations or in those spaces believe like, okay, well, this is a good job. I can't quit. I can't leave. There's a lot of white people here. Obviously, it's a good job. I can't leave. Um, I love also that you identified like the questioning of, okay, what do y'all really like about me? Like what about me do you like besides me smiling all the time? I can smile and not do shit if that's what y'all want me to do.
And collect a paycheck.
Yeah, I can definitely do that for 8 hours. But what do you actually like about me? What kind of questions or questions like similar to that did you ask the new space so that it's safer for you? Like, how did you know the new space was a better space?
It wasn't even what I asked, is how they genuinely presented themselves. And that to me knew, and it was so wild because it was where I'm at now is between this job and another one. And the main reason why I chose this job over the other, which is crazy because the other job that I was up for paid more. And thinking, oh, you have a family, you should go with that one. I went, my peace of mind is more expensive. So, and I could tell by the way that they stayed in communication with me throughout the entire process. They, the person who was not my supervisor, who was interviewing me, he would text me about certain updates, and I was like, oh, this is very personal. And he did that after I got to the second round because he knew I was gonna have to, because they were doing a quick turnaround. He was like, I need to keep you updated, and not everybody's checking their emails all the time. That consideration for me, I was like, wow, like they're super thoughtful. They told me up front what the salary was, what I was gonna be making, like, and even getting there, I was like, there's nothing that I was surprised by. Like they were very upfront about everything. And then even the questions that like they asked me, I could tell one had to do with the job, and two, they wanted to know more about like, who are you? Like what things do you value? Okay, you're a mom, what does that mean for you? And the fact that all of that didn't scare them, I was like, wow, okay, all right, like this is nice. And even now, we're all very different people, but I think at the core of us, we all are genuinely caring people. We also respect each other's authenticity. Like when I say we all have very different personalities, but it's not judging. It's we have questions we'll ask with respect. Especially like we'll tell stories about certain things. It was the feeling that I had going in. And never once have I felt slighted or like I was just a face in the room. It was always, and they reaffirmed it from my interview. When I finally got there, they said, you know, it was between you and another person, and we absolutely loved you. Like as soon as you came on, we said, yep, her. She'll do fine here. And they said, and we weren't wrong. And so I love the fact that they always reinforced that, like they picked me for my mind and what I was saying. They could recall. I actually just won an award for best new advisor for my for actually I found out it was from the university, which was wild. And a coworker was the one who submitted the nomination for me. And in my nomination, because they sent over the packet for us to read once we got it, he mentioned something about me that was from my interview that he recalled that I did. And I went, you were really paying attention. And that for me warmed my heart of like, wow, there are great people in here. And so we kind of stay in our bubble because we have so much to do. Like we have a huge caseload, but even with the amount of work that I do, I don't mind because I never feel like I'm stressing, or I never feel like I can't walk out my door because my coworker and I, we're bumping heads. It's never that. And so, yeah, I've just been really fortunate to be in that position.
And I like, even as you're telling these stories, I want to cry. And I think that's workplace trauma, baby, because that sounds so out of reach from, I mean, I don't work for nobody right now, but like it sounds so out of reach for a lot of people. Like, dang, where's that at? And for you to describe it as a real place, like it exists, these people exist, is going to help so many people, especially in the work that you do. There are so many Black people who are moving away from universities, who are moving away from academia, like all together. And I hope that this inspires them to like keep pursuing what they initially started out to do, which is to help students, like to help people achieve what they want to achieve. What is keeping you grounded in the work that you do? I know that you talked about a place prior to this not helping you want to stay doing the work that you, but what's keeping you grounded now?
Honestly, knowing that I'm where I'm supposed to be. I so the Annie Gayle Foundation is a nonprofit that my husband and I founded that works with high school juniors and seniors and helps them get into colleges, helps them to prepare to enter into college. And that like literally correlates with what I'm doing now. Like as an advisor, I have a caseload of almost 600 students that I literally have to learn multiple curriculums inside and out, make avenues for, try to figure out plans. It's the reason why I always call myself a lighthouse, because I'm not the person who's driving the boat, or I'm not the person who's actually maneuvering it for them. I'm the person who's saying, hey, I'm a guide, you're kind of lost at sea. That's fine. Just focus on me, and I'm going to help you get to shore. And so I love that. I tell myself all day, like I feel like that's why I was placed on this earth. Like I'm meant to be that middle person between students and wherever they're looking to go. And so for me, I'm very grounded in the fact that God has me where I'm supposed to be. There's also a peace that I have when I'm doing my work, that even though it's a lot, I don't feel overwhelmed. And that's weird. Like I feel it's a lot. I know I'm doing a lot, but I'm never burnt out. And that's a place that I used to always hit all the time. Like I would be doing a lot of work, I'm unhappy. And so I'm constantly hitting doors. I'm like, oh my gosh, like this door, I keep hitting it, it won't open. Cool. This door, I keep hitting it, it won't open. Okay, cool. But here, even though I'm hitting the door, it's opening, and there's a bit of peace. There's a bit of serenity. There's a bit of understanding that, like, if I'm placed here, I'm supposed to do something. And there's always moments that remind me that I'm where I'm supposed to be. And so it is nice. And I know you mentioned like, oh my gosh, like this is possible. Because I didn't think it was like that at all. Like I was going from job to job to job, and I was like, "Oh, okay, everywhere it's like this." So I just have to find some place where I can deal with it. But when I got here, all of us kind of are facing the same thing. Of we know that we're doing a lot. We know we have lives. One thing I love about my team now is that we don't call each other family. So there's no obligation to the workplace, which, oh my goodness, that is something that I have learned in a position that if they go, we're a family, I need to run. I need to run, because then there's this weird feeling of like, I can't grow, I can't move on. I'm going to always try to do things to please you that will sometimes go against my boundaries. But we do call each other team. We call each other coworkers, which is a positive thing for us. And it helps us to affirm each other. Like I have a coworker who she applied for a position and we said, go for it, do it. Like, what do you need? You need to be referenced? Because our positions aren't made for us to stay stagnant. Our positions are made for us to grow. We have a supervisor who, even though he knows that at any moment he can lose, like any of us, he's like, but I'm never going to hold y'all back. Like, I know I'm going to have to, hire, and I just ask that you all communicate that with me, but I'm never going to hold you back. I think that freedom to know that I can just go and I won't be guilt tripped into leaving. Man, does that do something for your soul? And granted, it kind of makes you want to stay because it's like, I'm scared I won't get this anywhere else. But it's nice. And that definitely grounds me a lot in the workplace.
I love this so much. And I love the examples you're providing. We talk about emotions so much here at Absolutely Not. And even you didn't even say an emotion, but I felt it, like the hitting of doors, like that. I've had that feeling before. And you talked about how people open the doors when you hit them where you are now. That's like I felt that as well. I've never felt it at a workplace, but I hope that other people feel that. And if you're not feeling that, whoever's listening, where you are, it may be time to go. To the to the people in similar fields as you who are listening to this and are hitting doors every single day, what would be kind of the first questions they should start asking people around them?
Being honest with yourself of like, why am I here? Like and that can be a scary question. And you also have to realize that you have to be in a place of privilege to ask that question, because there are some people who are like, I'm here because I'm providing for my family. I'm willing to deal with the BS because it's providing for my family. I'm here because we had to move for whatever reason. I'm here because they're providing childcare, and I can take childcare is expensive. And so there are a lot of people that are confined by, or I know for a lot of people in my field, because we're at a university, the university pays for classes. So if you're looking to get, any type of degree, I know that they'll pay for it and I don't have to pay back any money. So cool. But that's when you have to really ask yourself, like, how much is your piece worth to you? Like, is it worth the degree? Is it worth, stressing out your family when you get home? Because what I always realize is when you go to work and you're deep in stress and anxiety, you bring that home, like, because your home is your safe space. And so you think, I can just release it all here, but then you're unfolding that on your family. And then it's like, well, what's the balance here? And so I think it's really just trying to figure out, like, why are you here? If those factors outweigh your stress, cool. If they don't, and you are halfway to like legitimately not being okay, like, I know people who had to get out of the field because they could feel themselves going into such a dark space that it's like, I'm not sure if I can survive this. If it's to that point, I promise you, you can find money somewhere else. I know people who work at Walmart who make $60K, who are living fabulous lives and are with less stress. Like, we have a lot in where I live at in Virginia. There's 7 cities that you can go to work in, that and job positions are always looking. It may not be what you imagine you were going to do. And I think for a lot of times people are scared to move from where they're at because of comfortability. They're scared to make that transition. They don't know what that transition will look like on the other side. And if you're somebody who's always played by the rules, getting up and moving and doing something else is probably one of the scariest things you would do in your entire life, because you don't know what the outcome is. But something that I did when I stepped out on faith and I took this position on faith that, you know what, money will come. I know that the other job was going to give me more, but I'm where I'm supposed to be. Me following what God designed for me, I now make more money than I would have made if I was over there, because I got a raise. And now this, because I work for the state has been giving us bumps. So the money I thought that I would have been like, oh, it'd be nice to have that, I now exceed that. And so it will come. Like, you follow where you're supposed to go, all the resources will come, but you have to follow what you know is right. You have to follow what you're supposed to do in order for doors to open. It's going to require a lot of faith in yourself, and to know that you can do it. I know imposter syndrome sits heavy, especially in a lot of people of color. It sits because, I mean, you already may not feel like you belong in the room anyways. It's a lie. There are people who will beg for you and will pay you with your worth, who will give you that time off, who will give you those opportunities. There are people out there. It may look a little different than what you were expecting, but it is out there. And so sometimes it's also us getting out of our own way, and looking at different arenas too.
I love how specific you were in what you needed in your next space. Like, even when you saw the salary was lower, you're like, but I need this piece. Like, this is very much more important to me than the money right now. And if I take that, then I'm going to lose this. So I hope anybody who's listening to this, who's ready to take that step full of faith, is hearing like, okay, but let me be very specific in what I need in the next space, because this drained the hell out of me. And I can't do it anymore. I cannot let myself do it again. So the people who are listening to this and thinking, you know what, tomorrow I'm going to go have a conversation and possibly step out with all the faith that I have it within myself. What would be the top 3 tips you would share with them about taking that step?
Yeah, so the first is look at all aspects of what you're stepping out on faith on. For me, and this is something I forgot to mention about, was another reason why I did go to my current position, is that their PTO and time off is immaculate. Like, I get 1,000 hours of sick leave, and I get 16 hours of vacation time every month. That, to me as a parent, like, and I can also use my sick leave to take my son to doctor's appointments, to take care of a parent. I have older parents, so if I ever needed to do something for them, I can. And so for me, looking at the whole 360 before you move is one thing. 2, I said it before, ask yourself why. A lot of times we're looking at the outside pieces of it, but a lot of it sits within us. Like, coming to terms with the fact that maybe you made a mistake in choosing the position, coming to terms with the fact that you can't blame anybody else, because a lot of times you want to say it's this person's fault and it's that person's fault, and if you just change, you can't change anybody at all, but you can change yourself, and you can change your mindset, and you can change what you will accept and how you're going to move. And so figure out what you're willing to do. The third part is have faith in yourself. Like, have faith. Everything else, all the logistics and the ins and outs will come. It can be taught. But if you don't have faith and confidence in yourself that you can do it, you won't be able to ask yourself why and get the correct answers that you need. And so for me, biggest tips, like, you gotta come with that confidence in yourself. And you gotta look at you. You have to look at you. A lot of the BS that sits inside of my career field is because people accept any and everything because they refuse to have confidence in themselves. And so when they feel like, oh, well, if you don't do it, I can go and get somebody else, that somebody else will not be me. I bet you it won't be. And I will not contribute to this field continuing in this way. And so it's one thing that I commend teachers for currently in every state wanting to say, oh, well, we need to pay teachers some more. Yeah, because they're dropping out of the classroom in bulks. And now you're listening. Now you're seeing that they're stressed out. Now you're seeing that they're over it. But it took people to say, yeah, I'm not dealing with that, for change to happen. And so when people get the courage and the faith in themselves to say, it won't be me, it'll be a lot easier to maneuver. And so, that's the biggest things for me, advice-wise.
I know y'all see me wincing and just, oh my gosh, there are so many people who are going to hear this and do the same reactions I just did, because there's so much dishonesty that we've heard and internalized, and we just like, well, there's nothing better out there. Well, I'm not shit. I got my degree from here. And like, no, you have value. Everything that you touch has value. You are amazing. You deserve to be in that room. You deserve to use your voice. So please take everything that was said today. I know I will. And continue to do the work that you want to do. I love this so much. Thank you so much. That, my friends, is a TEDx speaker. Like, that's is there any last minute sprinkles you'd like to share with the audience before we go?
Honestly, I pretty much I said everything that I would ever think. But the biggest thing is operate in who you truly are. once you figure out who you are, it's going to be a lot easier for you to say no, for you to set those boundaries. Understanding that if you say no, you'll elevate. Something that I always tell people is, if you continue to say yes and you operate in these boundaries and you let people keep abusing you, you have to keep operating in that same wheelhouse. Like you can't move. It's not until you say no and you move out of that you can elevate and go past where you're, whatever you're expecting. So whatever goals you have, whatever motivations you have, use that, but know that it is all on you. And that's all I got.
Ooh, take it with you. Take it with you. Sorry, but do great things. To everybody who is listening to this, keep setting those boundaries. And Christine's amazing information, her TEDx talk will be in the show notes when this is published. So please check out everything and follow her. I found her on LinkedIn, so she she will continue to create content there, hopefully, please. And so follow her there. But her TikTok and Instagram will also be in the show notes. But keep setting those boundaries and saying absolutely not to anything that is unaligned. We will see you next time. Bye.